Hello, happy Wednesday. My name is Miles Bassett, and this is Ask Wildman, an open Q&A produced by Wildman Web Solutions. Me and my team jump on here every week to answer your questions. We are a digital marketing agency, so primarily we'll be talking about websites and digital marketing and technology, social media, general marketing and advertising strategy. But if you want to jump in and ask us a question on any of those topics or just ask us how our day is going, please jump in the comments below. We're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and our Twitch account. So pick one there and watch us live every week. We do this Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Or if you're watching this later, you can still send us your questions by emailing us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. And I do have that address and all this information scrolling below me here. If you email us any questions or feedback or anything, we'll use that for our show next week, or we'll just reply to you there in email. So again, this is an open Q&A. Anyone out there watching, I'm starting to see a couple people filtering in here. Please throw your comments below. I'll be watching those and we will answer those live as they come in. I say I'm watching them. I need to switch over here. That's what you get for producing a show that you're currently on. It's probably not the best idea in the world, but here we are. All right, I did want to do a little plug here at the very beginning. If you haven't checked it out already, please visit our website at wildmanweb.com. I've got it here on the screen for you. Tons of awesome resources. We do this show as a resource and to put good information out there and hopefully answer some questions about how businesses can operate online and help them avoid some common pitfalls, give you some tips and tricks to work smarter rather than harder. But we have a bunch of other resources on here as well. If you go to our website under the resources tab, you'll see we have a full blog here, tons of articles. You see we just had one come up a few days ago on how to use Instagram hashtags. There's tons of useful tips on here, from search engine optimization tips to social media to paid marketing strategies. So check it all out here. We'll put everything that we can up here as regularly as possible. We also have our live stream archives. That's this show that we put up here on our website. So just in case we said something smart a few weeks back, you can jump in here and see what we said before. We also upload full transcripts for those shows. Under podcast, we have the audio version of this show here. So if you're more of a listener, less of a watcher, check it out here. Oops, we gotta swap out a picture there. Anyway, we've got it on all of these different providers, so you can listen to us that way. And then finally, the toolkit. This is the Local Business Online Toolkit. This is a free suite of software that we provide to anyone who wants it. There's tons of tools in here to help you manage your social media, get reviews, manage your website, if you have any sort of paid ads out there. There's a tool in here to help you track that and analyze everything. It's just designed to help small businesses get online and manage their online presence effectively. So if you haven't already, just come here, fill out this form here, some basic information about your business, and it'll get you up and going. And then check out the rest of our website. We got lots of fun stuff here. All right, with that out of the way, we're going to move on to today's show. Again, this is an open Q&A, so if you have any questions, you have any thoughts about what we're talking about here, feel free to jump in the comments below, and we can start a conversation. But here to help me answer some questions, as usual, is my partner, Mike Hanna. Mike, you ready? There we go. Hello, Mike.
I believe I am. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I got some good coffee from Uplift Coffee this morning. Shameless plug to our friends over there. And 1 million cups this morning, and nice presentation. If you haven't checked that out, please come on by. Yeah, always a good way to start off my Wednesdays. We got one MC presentation and then straight here to a live stream.
Well, I'm glad you made it.
How you doing over there, Mike? Nice hat.
I am wired, fired, inspired, sugar that honey glazed, and will leap tall buildings in a single bound, Miles. And I am excited to talk to you today about all this crazy news that happened over the past 48 hours in the social media.
Yeah, and that'll have to be a developing story. I know we're operating on minimal information right now, or at least what I've seen out there is not horribly convincing as to the explanations I've seen. So
yeah,
we'll have to talk about this over the upcoming weeks as well.
I wanted to talk about that today, and just for you personally,
Yep.
audience probably doesn't care, but I do have a meeting hard at noon today. So don't let me go over like I usually do and start, you got to crack that whip today. Okay.
Got it. I've got a mute button right here, ready to go at any point.
All right. We may want to use it.
Reminder / Slack.
I don't know if you had anything you wanted to talk about today, or if there were some questions that had come in, we could hit that first before we get to the current events if you want. If not, shoot, let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, like I said, this is an open Q&A, so anyone watching here, throw the questions in here. Live questions will take precedent. But there is one thing that had come up this last week or so that I wanted to address, and then we can jump into that because that is a very interesting topic of conversation. But it's something that we had talked about a lot kind of early on in this show as we were doing this. We can come back and hit this a lot, but we haven't talked about it recently. And it just came up with a client conversation, that is website building technologies. Yeah. So as many of you know out there, there's tons of options to build a website. The internet is kind of all inclusive now. It's everywhere. You can't avoid it. And so having a website it's not really a nice to have anymore. If you have a business or any kind of organization, it's really a must. And so a lot of tools have popped up in order to fill that need. And so the problem now isn't, how do I put a website up there? It's which of the many, many, many options out there is right for me. So I wanted to just go over real quick here, and maybe we'll dive into this in more depth later on. The basic options that you have out there, and maybe some tips on how to figure out which one is going to be proper for you there. So the basic breakdown of categories is going to be the DIY website builders, then into the content management systems, and then into the custom developed stuff. Those are the three main categories that we break things down into here. And within those categories, there's tons of options, tools, and setups there, which will make sense for different people in different situations. But starting there at the beginning, you got the DIY tools. These are built specifically to be do-it-yourself models. It's supposed to empower non-technical users, not programmers, not web designers, to go in here. They often give you a very visual graphic interface, a drag and drop style thing. Lots of templates there to start off with, stock photos. Like, they give you everything you need. They often handle the hosting and the domain registration, and some will do email providing as well. So it's kind of an all-inclusive package there. You can go in there, no matter your experience level, build your own thing and get it out there. So the upsides here is that it's usually pretty cheap. You're paying very, very minimum investment there to get yourself up and going. It's really quick and easy to get something together that looks relatively professional and just at least get you on the internet somewhere. It's not going to be a Ferrari of websites, but it's going to get you up and going. It's going to get you from A to B, and it can be a really good starting point for some people, some businesses, and some organizations. Again, because it's not very cost prohibitive, it's pretty cheap, and you can get in there and pretty much do it yourself. If you're willing to put in a couple of hours, watch some YouTube videos, you can figure it out pretty well and get it out there. The downside there is it's going to be pretty limiting. There's not a whole lot you can do past that. So if you do grow into something a little bit bigger, or if you think you're going to grow into something a little bit bigger pretty quickly, then this might not be the best option for you, because there's going to be a ceiling that you hit real quick. You can't do certain performance optimization techniques. You can't do search engine optimization past a certain level. Some more advanced functions are not really going to be present for you. It's really just supposed to be that quick, easy setup and start to get yourself something out there that looks pretty good and allows you to start being found online. Past that, we've got the intermediary levels. This is the content management systems. The big one everyone knows is WordPress. WordPress is a very extensible open platform, so anyone can contribute to it. It's grown astronomically since its early days. It was set up to be a blogging platform, thus the name WordPress, but has become the #1 website builder in the world. Something like a third of the internet is built using WordPress. It's a PHP-based platform, but it gives you a content management system. That means that It's easy for users and administrators, whoever's running the site, to get in there and start producing content. Again, it was built as a blogging platform, so people could log in and create posts, create projects, create these different articles to post onto the website. It's supposed to be easy to manage the content. The downside there is that you have to be able to set it up. So this is a little bit more technical to get it set up. You either have to buy hosting that's already set up for that, or know how to configure a server properly for this PHP application. You then have to get WordPress installed. You can go out and find a theme and get that installed. Then you have to know how to customize that theme, which, depending on which one you get, can be pretty easy or incredibly complicated. So this is kind of bordering on the, maybe you could figure it out yourself if you don't have any experience, if you're willing to put in some time. This is more like days or weeks of learning how to do something yourself and get something basic up there, or veering into the professional level. There's not really a ceiling like I was talking about with the DIY platforms there. It's very extensible. You can do lots of performance optimization, lots of search engine optimization, tons of different advanced features and functionality have been added to it over the years. If you know what you're doing, there's really nothing you can't do with a platform like that. And WordPress is only one option. There's tons of other ones out there. That's just kind of the big one. You may also hear names like Drupal or Joomla. There are some non-PHP ones out there as well. Laravel, I guess that's PHP as well. But anyway, so you might run across different ones of those, but the through line there is that there's a technical setup there. And if you really know what you're doing, you can extend that into doing whatever you want. But once you get it up and going, it's easy for people to manage, even non-technical users to manage. So if you get a professional setup, oftentimes you can then pass it off to a non-technical administrator or user to then go on and manage their site and into the future. But oftentimes you do end up having to pay a professional to get that set up to a certain extent. And then you've got that final tier. That is custom built stuff. That's where you're really building more of a web application than you are a website. So this is a bigger piece of software, not just a place you can go online. This is usually when you need to do something very specific. You have some real processing power is going to be built into that. It's going to take a lot more infrastructure behind it to set up, a lot more technical knowledge. And here you are absolutely going to be paying a professional software developer or software development agency to get this thing set up and built for you. This is usually a little bit outside of the small business world, which is where we live and breathe mostly. So if you are a small business out there, even a medium-sized business out there, you probably don't need to look into this. But if you need to have any sort of more custom or more advanced functionality built out there, I know we're doing one right now to complement a mobile application that's collecting a ton of data, and a bunch of processing needs to be done. And then it'll display all of that data in a useful way that can be used in a research setting. So that's one use case that you could have for something like this. But this is obviously going to take a lot more time, a lot more money, a lot more specialization in order to get something out there. But that's the basic breakdown here. And then, Mike, I want to throw to you real quick for some questions or diving into some of this. But just to review, you've got the DIY stuff. This is really easy, really cheap. Non-technical users can do it. You're probably not going to find a lot of professionals or agencies that will provide services on these platforms or want to do that, because again, there's going to be a little bit of a ceiling there. But it can be a really, really nice, quick and easy way for someone to get up on the internet and get started really quick. This is platforms like Wix and Weebly. Squarespace is kind of in there. It's also kind of a content management system. You can do a little bit more with it, but it's kind of built to be a DIY thing as well. Then you've got the content management systems there in the middle. That takes up a pretty wide range of really, really simple stuff to some pretty advanced things. So there's less of a ceiling there. It's a lot more extensible. You're probably going to have to put some more time and investment in there. And honestly, you're probably going to have to hire a professional at that point, unless you're pretty tech savvy. And even then, it might be good to get some advice or help with the initial setup or something. And then finally, you've got the custom built web application. This is a true piece of software developed for you. And this is to do some major heavy lifting, but also provides some sort of web presence. So hopefully that gives a pretty high level overview here, but I did want to turn it over to you, Mike, as the non-technical marketing side of the house. Is there anything that you wanted to see there, or any questions that you have? And also those out there watching, if you have any questions on any of those, if you have a website on one of those platforms, you want some clarification, throw that in the comments below and I'll dive into whatever you want.
Yeah, Miles, I think you did a really good job explaining those 3 tiers, if you will, of different platforms. I guess my question or my thought is, if I'm sitting here listening to this as a business owner, is, well, where is the most acceptable tier for me? And I know that it's going to depend on, what type of business you have and everything like that. So I'm going to be a little bit general, but it's actually not that dependent. I mean, for probably 90% of the people out there, certainly the ones that we talk to, I mean, they need to be in that middle tier. They need to be in the content management type of a website. I think for a couple different reasons, and I think that you were being a little too nice, maybe, just describing some of those entry level.
Never.
Because it's not a little ceiling. There's a big ceiling on those entry level platforms.
Yeah.
And I think that's, one of the frustrating things for us is to see people who get stuck in that rut of using an entry level platform and then quickly hitting that ceiling, and then either, not getting to the site to where it needs to be in order to, function the way that the customers want, or they just have to start all over from scratch and build something completely new again in order to get what they want. And it's just it's a loss of time and money. That's why it's, frustrating for us. So, like, we would rather see people just do it right the first time. And so I guess that's kind of just my non-technical spiel here is you're going to get what you pay for. You want to do it right the first time. It's going to save you time and money, in the long run. And you don't want something that's going to be severely limited, both in terms of the content, the design, the management, but also, just the user friendliness of it. It's going to be extremely limited. You're not going to be able to, optimize it for SEO probably near as easy as you would on another platform. So you're not going to be able to get the traffic, built up, which is the whole important point of having the site to begin with. And so there's a lot of limiting factors there that a lot of people don't consider. And they just look at, well, I'll be on the internet. Let's find the lowest price to do that. Right. And, you kept saying, well, you may have to, hire a professional to do this. I'm going to say you get to hire a professional, and if you are a professional, meaning like if you have a real business, you need to hire professionals in order to make your real business look good and grow. If you're just a freelancer or, you're doing a part-time, thing, and that's kind of your side business, sure, throw up a Wix site or whatever, it's not going to make a big difference at the end. But if you are an actual business that is wanting to grow in 2021, you're going to hit that ceiling really, really quick. And like I said, it's just going to cause you a lot of time and effort and money in the long run. And so that's what I would say is that, you do it right the first time, hire a professional, even if it's not us, or even if it's not somebody local. But I mean, would you try to build your brick and mortar store by yourself? Would you do the do it yourself way? Right? No, you'd hire a contractor and you'd hire a professional. Well, it's the same goddamn thing. It's just digital instead of physical. And so, that's kind of my spiel on it, Miles. And I think, like I said, most people, they can forget about the entry level. They can forget about, the .NET custom development level, and they just need to focus on what is going to be the best content management, type platform for me that I can execute what I want, and more importantly, what my customers want. To the best of my ability. And, even if that means investing a little bit more in upfront, it usually means making a lot more in the long run.
Yeah, you hit on an important point there that I kind of skimmed over, and that is if you do use one of the DIY platforms out there, they're all inclusive, which is really nice to get up and started very early, but they don't play well with others. So
Right.
it's not like you can just pull that site off of that platform and then put it onto something bigger and better. Like, you're going to end up building from scratch.
Right.
And oftentimes it's really annoying to, like, they your domain is tied to that, and you end up having to move it to another platform. That's a whole other step that can get a little bit complicated sometimes. Usually it's okay, but sometimes domains are a little bit tricky. If your emails are tied to that, then all of a sudden you're gonna have to move email providers or navigate transfer email contacts or history or whatever to a new platform. The more all inclusive it is, the more dependent your entire business is on this thing that you are going to outgrow very quickly. So there is a time and place for those kinds of tools, and they're incredibly useful. But like Mike said here, if you are a legitimate business and you think that you are going to lean on your online presence in any meaningful way, which honestly most businesses probably should be at some level at this point, then you should probably look at something a little bit more extensible. I keep using that word extensible. That's a big software word here, where you're building something so that it can grow.
Mm-hmm.
You're building it so it can extend into something. Even if you don't know what that future is going to be, you can still build something intelligently so that it can grow and change and adjust and flex to be what it needs to be in the future. And on those old DIY platforms, they're built to be a one size fits all, but one size doesn't really fit anyone quite right kind of a thing. And so it can be a quick, easy way to get something up there. And if that's all you need, go for it. That is going to be the most cost-effective way for you to do it. But if you are running a business, then yeah, it's probably going to be worth your time to invest in something a little bit bigger and better, and at the risk of sounding self-serving. Yes, we do websites and everything, but whether or not you go with us or with someone else, if you're watching here locally and you want to work with us, or you're watching from the other side of the globe, there's tons of people, tons of great agencies and developers and designers out there that can put together professional websites for you. Go and talk with one of them, go and talk with multiple of them, find one that fits you, and get yourself set up there with something that you can grow into. It's not just going to limit you almost immediately.
Yeah, 100%, Miles. There, and not to just belabor the point here, but you did hit on something there about the design factor too, and that just drives me up the freaking wall with those do-it-yourself. They're basically, it's the same template that every single person's using out there, and you don't stick out. Your site's not memorable. The ones that really kill me are the musicians and the artists, because there's basically like two do-it-yourself. I'm not going to call them out right now. There's basically two do-it-yourself companies in the music world that I'd say 90% of the artists out there use, because it's turnkey and it's easy and it's cheap, and they all are exactly alike. And I'm like, you're an artist. You're supposed to be creative. Why is your site going to look like the 58,000 other band websites that I go to? Sorry. All right.
Yeah, no, that's true, because that's one of the limiting factors here is, you can go out and hire a professional agency or designer or developer or whatever to come in and work on it. But if you are on that platform, there's only so much they can do.
Right.
Like if they are just the best graphic designer in the world, they're only going to have so much they can possibly do on that platform to make your stuff stand out and make it look good. They're going to do better job than someone who has no idea what they're doing, obviously. And you can make some stuff look pretty okay over there, but you're right, you're kind of limited in the design. Some of them you really are just limited to a couple of specific templates. Some of them have some more breadth of templates or more things you can do, but all of them are going to have that ceiling. And if you are an actual professional, you have a real business that you're running on this, you're going to hit that ceiling. It might be tomorrow, it might be next year, but you're going to hit it, and it's going to be a massive headache to have to switch over to something else.
And
I'd rather see you just set up, put a little bit more in up front, get set up properly, and then just continue to grow on that solution instead of encountering that headache that we see all the time.
I'm still there. Yeah, sorry, Miles. I had a call come in there.
No, you're right. You're good.
Yeah, so a good point. I just want to add one other thing. It's not just aesthetics. When we talk about the design, and it's like, oh, I don't care if it looks pretty or whatever. The design is supposed to keep people on the site longer, which makes them engage more, which makes the site actually do what you pay for it to do, which is, get people's attention, engage with them, and turn them into customers. And if you can't properly design a website in order to do that, you're really missing the boat. So that's one
Yeah,
point.
design complements function, or good design complements function, I should say.
Yeah.
It should be able to drive people where you want on the website and guide them in interacting with your online presence in a way that makes sense for you and for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure all of you out there have that experience of going to a website and just not even knowing what you're supposed to do, or you know what you want to do and you just can't figure out how to do it. You can't find the right button, you can't find the right section, you know it's there. That is typically a sign of a poorly designed website. So it's not just the aesthetics. I mean, it's nice to look pretty and all, but the design does just fold right into the function there.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think we've hit that enough. I wanted to hit that real quick, and maybe we'll come back to that here in the upcoming weeks and do a deeper dive in each of those sections and show some options and everything. But I did want to get into the news of the day. I know we have a hard cutoff, and we're about halfway through here. It's 11:30. I'll be cutting off here about noon. But if you have any questions on any of that, please throw those in the comments here. I see some people just jumping in and saying hi, hello. Thank you for those comments. But if you have any questions or you want us to take a deeper dive on any of this, please just ask. Or if you're catching this later, please email us, askwildman@wildmanweb.com, and we'll use that for our subject matter next week. All right, Mike, did you want to take over on the news desk side?
Sure, yeah. But before we get to the Facebook news, are we up on Twitch today? Are we streaming? Because I saw
looks like it. Yeah.
I saw they got hacked. I don't know if you saw that this morning.
Oh no, I hadn't seen that. I've been out.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Twitch was back up, but yeah, Twitch.
I'm seeing green lights here, but we'll see.
Okay, cool.
Hey, if you're on Twitch, comment. Let us know if we're actually there.
Leave us a comment. Yeah, apparently though, the whole back end got hacked. The source code, all of the financial records from the past 2 years of they pay their content creators and stuff like that. All that stuff got leaked. So yeah.
Yikes! That is crazy news. Oh, hey, Mike,
I woke up to that news this morning. All right, let's talk about Facebook. I'll do a quick recap. I'm sure everybody has seen the headlines. So Sunday night, okay, the whistleblower is on 60 Minutes. And then yesterday she testified, I believe it was in front of the Senate. Maybe it was the House. I can't remember. And Monday, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp were all out for most of the day. I believe it was about 7 hours or so, 7, 8 hours, something like that. So we can kind of take this in pieces if you want. On the outage thing, they're saying that it wasn't a hack. They're saying that it was actually an internal error. Miles, I'd love to know if you actually believe that or not. But what they claim is that basically somebody made a mistake inside Facebook, and their DNS was taken off the internet. And so basically, the all of Facebook's websites could not be found by the thing that makes the internet find websites, which is your DNS. So I'm sure Miles can explain that a little bit better. And so it wasn't necessarily that everything got erased. Everything was still there, as you probably logged in since then, and all your stuff is still there. It just couldn't be found by any of the browsers on the internet. So, really, really interesting kind of thing there. People were obviously freaking out on Twitter and other platforms, being like, did this thing get taken down on purpose? Is this the end of Facebook? Of course, it wasn't the end of Facebook. Who knows if it was taken down on purpose or not? We're not going to just sit here and speculate. But it does bring up a couple of interesting things in terms of how reliant we are on social media. And this is a tightrope that we kind of walk a lot here on the show. So I think it's worth talking about, is that we tell you, hey, you need to be engaged on social media. That's where your audience is. That's where you're going to be able to get attention. But at the same time, you can't be so reliant on social media that that's the only trick in your bag. We routinely quote Joseph Paluzzi. He says, don't build your house on rented land, right? Very, very simple concept, but extremely important. And Monday was a great example of that. What if you were solely reliant on Facebook? What if that's where, or Instagram, what if that's where your e-commerce store was and you were having a big sale that day? What if you just had a Wix site and, your website wasn't uh, ready to handle that kind of traffic or that kind of sales, or what you were trying to get your customers to do with it? This is a great example of why you need to have something in your toolkit that you control, that can be the A to Z solution for you to do whichever your customers need you to do. We recommend, like I said, at least some sort of a content management website, but a mobile app is another great tool to have that could alleviate some of these problems of how do I reach my customer if social media goes down. And it's not just, oh, social media is going to go away, right? Because that's kind of like the doomsday scenario. But look what we've seen over the past 10, 15 years just on the Facebook platform alone, right? First, it was, hey, I don't need to advertise anymore. I can just post from my business account, and every single one of my followers is going to see it. They may see it 2-3 times a day. This is awesome, right? Then what happened? Oh, now nobody sees my posts anymore. Now I have to pay for anybody to see anything that I'm posting on there as a business, right? And that was just a matter of years of how quickly it changed. So the changes are going to keep coming, even if it's not the big dark doomsday scenario of, oh my God, Facebook just got zapped and is no longer there, right? Which could happen. I mean, MySpace is for all intents and purposes, not there anymore. And other, we've talked about Parler and other places, that just literally disappeared from the internet. So I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's going to happen, but what we're saying is you can't be overly reliant on a social media platform, even if that's just one particular platform. That's why we always, say too, to spread it out a little bit, focus on one platform, build your audience there, but then use that to leverage to other places, back to an email list, to another platform, to a text messaging platform, to your mobile app, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of the one big point here, Miles, that I wanted to draw out on that side of things. And then real quick to go back to the whistleblower news, which was also interesting. Basically she says, they put profits over people, and that they know, and they have internal documents, and she's now leaked some of these internal documents that prove, basically, especially for kids, that these platforms are harmful. These platforms are harmful to people's their self-image. That actually is sometimes it's causing people self-harm, is what some of the allegations are, and that Facebook internally knows all of this, and they basically ignore it, and they're continue to do what they do because it's so profitable. And again, I think most people understand this, but let's just examine, how does Facebook make its profits? Well, it makes its profits through advertising revenue, and so the longer it can keep more people on the platform, the more ads can be served to the audience, and therefore it can make more money. I saw a stat during the outage on Monday that they were losing $700 million an hour that Facebook was down in potential revenue. And Mark Zuckerberg himself lost $7 billion of his personal net worth just in that 7-hour period. So really, really interesting, stats too that just came out of that. But so we have this dilemma now of, okay, and I know, Miles, we've talked about this before on the show, but I want to get your updated take on this. So we have this dilemma of, okay, well, what do we do, right? These are more or less unregulated entities. We could debate that or not, but more or less they're not regulated like other utilities are, right? Or even some other press, right? So we have that debate, and if you listen to the whistleblower, that's what she's recommending. She's saying, well, we need an oversight committee, and it's really interesting, Miles, and I should have pulled this up to put it down in the comment section so people can listen to it. But I want people to find a speech that Mark Zuckerberg gave at Georgetown University in the fall of 2019. And it was a really, really good speech, and it was really interesting. I call it his freedom of expression moment, where he basically said, we're actually the good guys, and we're actually giving more freedom of expression than any other platform in the history of the world. And this has never been done in history, that so many people can have a platform, can have a soapbox to stand on, to say what they believe and reach other people. And part of that's true, right? But then he also goes into the but we also want to stop harm and da 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 da. And he even says in that speech, we don't know where that line is. Like, it's a subjective thing, right? And so we're having to rely on outside feedback. And he even says in that speech, I would support a committee of people who are outside of Facebook and outside of Silicon Valley, i.e. the government, to basically say where that line is and that we can't cross it. So he's talking kind of out of both sides of his mouth, in this speech. And like I said, it's a really great speech. It's worth watching. But it was the exact same recommendation that this Facebook whistleblower, who is apparently against Mark Zuckerberg, is also saying is the answer to this. And then Mark Zuckerberg came out yesterday and said that this is all taken out of context, whistleblowers' data that she released, et cetera, et cetera. So what is this going to mean for the future? Probably there's some sort of regulation that is going to happen. Whether it's antitrust or what, we don't know, or like it's some sort of committee, like Mark Zuckerberg and the whistleblower are talking about. But that's probably, if history is any indicator, going to mean that the big platforms get bigger and there's less small platforms that come up, after that. And so, Miles, I know that was a whole that I just spit out there, but that was kind of the synopsis.
Yeah, I'm going to need about 3 hours to respond to all of that. So just clear your afternoon.
That was kind of the synopsis that I saw, come out of the last few days. So I want your thoughts, first. Oh man, can I throw one other thing in there, or maybe not? Maybe let's hold off on that. There's some other big Facebook news that actually came out that got completely buried by all this other Facebook news. So first though, give me your thoughts on don't build your house on rented land. And then secondly, where do you think this is going as far as social media being regulated?
Yeah, I'll do that and respond to the other points in there as best as I can and as quickly as I can. I think that this event of all Facebook stuff going down, this is Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and everything that's run their internal systems there, down for, I believe officially it was like 6 hours, but takes a little bit to get everything back up and going. Anyway, I think that is the explanation point on the end of a sentence that we have been shouting for weeks, months, even years at this point, which is pretty well summed up by your line there of do not build on rented land. We forget that we don't own these platforms, that they can change the rules at any point, and this wasn't part of what we were saying, or the whole thing can just shut off. We have no control over that. We don't own that. And so all of the time and effort that you put into building something on those platforms can be taken away from you at a moment's notice. More likely, I think it's because terms and conditions change, or they change how their algorithms work, and all of a sudden you're not reaching the people that you were. But there's always the possibility the whole damn thing just turns off on us. So I think very, very prominently that has proven us right here, and hopefully motivated some people to diversify their efforts and move into some other platforms, some other efforts, and not just putting all of their time and energy into just one social media platform, or even just into social media in general. That's only one avenue, and there's a ton of other ways to do this. I guess thoughts on the technical issue here. We've gotten very little information from Facebook on their technical side of things and how this whole thing went down. I don't buy it so far. It sounds like pretty general things. I think we're going to get some more information coming out of this, or maybe we'll never know. But This was bad. This was a really bad technical outage that even took down all of their internal systems. They're saying that they couldn't even communicate with one another inside the company when this happened. When you're looking at the DNS settings or the information that they're getting out there, it's all about allowing the internet to access their servers and their applications. All of those different technical terms they're putting out there are just different ways of saying this is how we tell the internet where we are. And all the different hubs around the world that kind of disseminate the internet to all the different users, they all have a map back to where your site is, whether you're Facebook or you're wildmanweb.com. Everyone has an address there, and these systems help to tell browsers and devices how to navigate to those places. They're saying that screwed up and basically removed their entire system from the internet. I don't buy all that, so we'll see how that goes. As far as the whistleblower goes, she didn't say anything that I found horribly surprising. That they're prioritizing profit over people. Like, of course they are. They know that, or they think that Facebook or other social media is harmful. Of course they think that. No, this isn't any kind of crazy new information here. Maybe it's a bad PR thing for them if they really knew that. They did a bunch of internal studies or something. You back there, Mike? You blipped out for a minute.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so I think this is going to be more of a bad PR thing, and there's not exactly anything crazy new in there. I heard someone compare it to like cigarette companies. They're selling cigarettes. They know these things cause cancer. They know they're not good for you, but they're selling a product. And, maybe they have to be forced to tell people some of the side effects or something like that. Maybe there has to be more knowledge, more publicly available, publicly advertised knowledge about the possible side effects of this. We're talking about social media being addictive. They design it to be addictive. All of these different big platforms, like they have psychologists on staff to try to build this thing and wire it so that it works with your brain and makes you want to stay on the platform. These things are legitimately addictive, and they know it, and everyone else knows it. And we knew that they knew it, but now there's a paper saying that they knew it. So It's not exactly mind-blowing content there, or any sort of massive revelations, but it could definitely be damaging to the business side into saying, look, they clearly knew this was happening and did things anyway instead of changing their process.
Yeah.
Responding somewhat to Mr. Zuckerberg's speech that you had talked about there, and we forget one of the early adages of Facebook, and one that they maintain to this day, is move fast and break stuff. Mm-hmm. Like that's literally the company motto, or one of their motivating lines there, is they are designed to just move fast and break stuff, and they want the world to tell them what they can and can't do. They're just going to move forward, whether they should or not. They're just going to build stuff. They're going to put it out there and see what the world says about it. Yeah. If the world comes back and says, hey, here's the line, or if you did this, then that breaks this, then that's not on them. They are here to move fast and break stuff, and that's what they're doing. Which that's fine when you're a little startup out of your garage, but now when you're the most powerful company in the world, or one of the most powerful companies or entities in the world, you have a more revenue than most countries' GDP. Maybe that's not the best mantra to have, and maybe we need to look into doing things a little bit differently, because now when you're moving fast and you're breaking stuff, the stuff you're breaking is people and their lives. I don't necessarily think, just personally, that solution is going to come from the top. I kind of get the argument for the antitrust stuff, breaking all this stuff down into smaller organizations, so at least all of that power is somewhat decentralized, and that will kind of regulate itself. But if we're looking at some sort of federal oversight committee or something, that to me is just taking, right now the problem is that the power is concentrated too much in too few people's hands, or too few organizations' hands. When you look at Facebook and Google and Twitter and Amazon and maybe a couple other companies, like, we're coming down to a handful of people that have more power than God in modern society. And so if they screw up something, or if they have a bad mantra like move fast and break stuff, then the rest of us pay for it. Maybe breaking some of that stuff up would allow for those decisions to be broken up between more individuals, and there would be more checks in there somewhere, sort of a checks and balances kind of idea. But if we just pull it up to the federal level, then we're just pooling all of those decisions into one place and really hoping that that one place makes some good decisions. So far, the government is a bunch of old people that barely understand how the internet works. I mean, go watch Zuckerberg's testimonies in front of Congress. It's hilarious, especially if you have a little bit of a tech background. But yeah, they have no idea what they're even regulating. So we first have to figure out how to get some people in there, some younger blood, some people that are specialized in this, that actually understand the basics of how the internet works, before we even talk about building some sort of regulatory body there. So I'm not entirely sure what that would look like or how we'd find the right people to do that. But 90% of Congress has no idea how any of this stuff works.
That is true. They don't have.
That's concerning.
They don't have an idea how a lot of stuff works, Miles. All right.
Well, if they start making rules about how the internet functions, then we're all going to suffer for that too, in a completely different way. Like, no one wants that.
Okay, well,
so hopefully I responded to a bunch of the points in there. I don't think I hit all of them.
No, you nailed it. I'm just going to move on because we're running short on time here, and there's two other quick, big news stories that I want us to get to.
Yeah.
Okay. Facebook invests $50 million for responsible metaverse development. How did this one slip under everybody's radar, right? All right, Miles, are you familiar with the term metaverse?
No.
Okay, well, you're not alone. According to this article, only 38% of people are familiar with the term of metaverse. So let's start there. The word metaverse is made up of the prefix meta and the stem verse. The term is typically used to describe the concept of a future iteration of the internet made up of persistent shared 3D spaces linked into a perceived virtual universe. Here we go, folks. Facebook will invest $50 million to help develop the so-called metaverse more responsibly. They just put this out last week. The social giant's announcement also looks to define the vague term metaverse as a cross-device digital world where people can explore and communicate with others they're not physically with. Facebook turns its focus to researching and building the metaverse, which it calls the next computing platform. The social giant plans to work with a number of partners, including policymakers, researchers at the University of Hong Kong and Howard University, industry stakeholders, and organizations like Women in Immersive Tech, Africa No Filter, Electric South, and the Organization of American States. The new XR Programs and Research Fund will invest the money globally over 2 years to ensure metaverse tech is built with inclusivity, privacy, safety, and the economic opportunity in mind, per the announcement. So Facebook is already building the next platform as we speak, to tie in what you were just saying about moving quickly and breaking stuff. And basically, it seems like it's a 3D virtual reality type of a world that they're going to create where, you and I and whoever else could be thousands of miles apart, and we will be virtually in this space. We'll be able to see each other and interact with each other on a 3D level instead of like what we do right now on a 2D level. So really, really interesting stuff there. Again, that just completely slipped under the radar. I found one article about this.
Yeah, I've heard some people pushing for that kind of technological growth. Most people in the context of developing some sort of new virtual reality or augmented reality based social media platform, which is probably where they're kind of going with this. I haven't heard the terminology metaverse there, but I think there's a lot bigger technological achievements that are going to have to happen outside of that, with distributed processing, some sort of blockchain internet based or blockchain based internet. I think that's going to come out, and that's going to be the thing that breaks all of this, not VR social media, but it's cool and looks like fun. So we'll see where those two lines intersect.
All right, I saved the biggest headline for last, Miles. And we could probably talk about this for a while, but let's try to wrap it up in the next 4 or 5 minutes. Can the AI economy really be worth $150 trillion by 2025? This comes from Forbes magazine, excuse me. The 150 trillion was, of course, the big estimate. Not all the estimates were that much, but let's dig into this. Research firm Gartner expects the global AI community to increase from about $1.2 trillion last year to about $3.9 trillion in 2022. AI, of course, artificial intelligence. I'm sure most people know that, but while it sees delivering the global economic activity of around 13 trillion by 2030. By the same year, PricewaterhouseCoopers reckons a $15.7 trillion market cap, more than the current combined output of China and India. Tech investor, mispronounce this, TechQually, however, believes the impact will be much faster and exponentially larger, however, potentially worth 150 trillion by 2025. So just to put that into some sort of perspective, Miles, I believe if you added up all the private assets and wealth in the United States right now, it's in the neighborhood of 150 trillion. So, maybe it's like 160, but that's a lot. That's nearly double the IMF's forecast of $88 trillion for the gross domestic product of the globe. But this tech advisor is undaunted. Conventional wisdom is too cautious. He says the internet today is worth 50 trillion. You can take that and extrapolate it to at least 3 or 4 times and get the applications to get $150 trillion. I don't see how it can be any less because AI has so many different industries and applications. So that I'm not going to go. I think we get the gist of it here. But so we've talked about this a lot. How AI is going to impact not just the kind of tech that we use now, but literally every single industry, especially in the supply chain world. Blockchain is already making huge innovations in that space as well. Miles, what do you think? Is this complete crazy talk? 150 trillion? I mean, even the 15 trillion dollar number and such is a massive amount from where we're at right now of 1.7. But where do you feel like AI is going to grow in this short 3 to 5 year window they're talking about?
Well, we don't have a very good way to imagine once we get to that many zeros. So it's kind of hard to think about things on that scale. I'm also not an economist by any measure, but on the technical side of things, I think that it's important to divide this into 2 different definitions of AI, where I think even just in the quotes that you were hitting there, we crossed over. So that there's a line in there that people don't really understand where it is. And so if we're talking about a research firm looking into the market, the current AI market, and how it's going to build in the next year to 10 years, they're looking at one definition. If you're talking about a tech investor or someone that's really on the bleeding edge of something, they could be talking about the other definition. The first one is the more practical application of something more akin to machine learning, where we have code that adds on to itself and builds itself. And that can be applied anywhere, especially as the internet grows. There's more information out there. Processing is more decentralized. We can get to more into that at some point, but that can tie into anything. You can think about we see ads on TV all the time for things that'll help you write better. Like it'll just read what you're writing in an email and suggest grammatical changes, but it's more than just spell check. It's telling you how to write with a particular type of voice. We've seen some technologies that will write entire articles for you. There's tons of articles out there on your favorite blogs right now that are written completely, almost entirely without any human input or with very minimal human input. So that kind of thing, I think that has practical applications everywhere. And the better that it gets, the more people are going to start adopting it. The thing is, those technologies sucked like a few years ago. I looked into them. I helped build some of them, but they were just terrible. And now they are really getting to a point where they're really very helpful for a ton of people in different industries. So the better those things get, the more they're going to be adopted. And that's something that can be used in every industry across the world. So I can see that growing into a massive sub economy. On the other side of the line there, you get true artificial intelligence. This is something that we have not achieved yet, and some people hope that we never do. But that's really truly building artificial intelligence. And if that gets developed, then
right now, right? Would that be an
what?
example of what you're talking about? Where Elon was trying to make that robot, be able to dance and stuff. Was that an example of the true artificial intelligence?
We don't have a very good example of that, but I mean, yeah, some of the big tech companies have gotten closer than other things, like IBM's Watson, where you get that supercomputer, is probably the closest thing that we've, or one of the closest things we've really gotten to that point. I mean, Elon Musk, if you bring him up, he says that the development of artificial intelligence is the #1 threat to humanity facing us in the next 10 to 50 years. So I don't know if he's really going to try to build any of that anyway. But if we were to get to that point, then that, alongside a much vaster, more advanced internet, potentially some sort of decentralized internet, would encompass the entire economy of the globe. So yeah, sure, that's going to be the biggest number you can think of times 10. But on the more realistic level, yeah, when we get better machine learning and all this stuff that can automate some of our systems, that's going to penetrate every market and every industry over here in the next 5 to 10 years. Probably sooner than that. Over the next year, we'll start seeing a lot more of it. I can definitely see that market doubling or tripling here in the next year or two.
Awesome. Miles, it is noon. I got to turn to a pumpkin.
All right.
To a meeting. I'll let you wrap it up. Always appreciate you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Mike. See you next week. Okay, thank you everyone for joining and watching here. I saw a couple of new people jumping on here, and some people on different platforms. Twitch, I don't know who you are. I can see you over there, so hopefully you commented. Or hopefully this is actually getting out to Twitch here. Anyway, so we will be live streaming again next week, next Wednesday at 11, live stream to our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch accounts. So please tune back in then. In the meantime, please email us your questions at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. We'll get to those questions next week, or reply to you in email. In the meantime, visit us at wildmanweb.com to learn more. Thanks.